She could be any 12-year-old girl
So it's like a movie.
hanging out with her mom and sister. But Zoe was biologically born a boy. How did you handle it when people related to you as a boy?
Yeah, I always got upset. I'd be like, no, I'm not a boy. I'm a girl, you know. Like, I like the color pink. I scream like a girl. I act like a girl. I breathe like a girl. I'm not a boy.
The first reaction is fear. Not because of who she's presenting to be, but of those around us. What are other people going to say? How are they going to treat her? You know, those are the scary things. What kind of life is she's going to have? Put that one there.
But Zoe's mother, Ophelia, at their request, we won't be using last names of the families in this story,
Yeah, let me do them.
felt she had no choice.
Oh, look at that.
A single mom, 2 years ago, she accepted Zoe's decision to live as an openly transgender girl. Zoe's family and her childhood friends in her town near Los Angeles have been supportive.
Look at Zoe.
But a survey of nearly 300 transgender youth found that 89% reported being harassed in school.
Come on, we're going back to the long room back here.
And Zoe, too, has endured cruel treatment from her schoolmates.
Even like the kids that do seem like they're good kids, they even make fun of me. Like, they'll be like, yeah, we're your friend. Just don't worry. Tell us more about your stuff and how you're going through life. And then like they'll just turn on you and they'll be talking about what you tell them.
Mm-hmm. Zoe's doctor, Johanna Olson, is a specialist in the care of transgendered youth at Children's Hospital, Los Angeles. She says that her patients have a condition known as gender dysphoria.
The words that we use to describe persistent unhappiness, discomfort, and distress about the incongruence between the gender that you were assigned based on your anatomy at birth versus the way that you internally experience gender.
Estimates on the number of transgender Americans range as high as 0.5% of the adult population, or about 750,000 people. But more and more young people are emerging as transgender.
I see between 1 and 5 new trans kids a week. So the growth is tremendous. We've had something like a 330% increase over the year of 2013. It's just phenomenal.
What do you think is happening? I mean, are there more transgender children?
It's not so much that there are more transgender kids, it's that trans people are coming out earlier. We also know that among trans people, there are high rates of depression, anxiety, social isolation, suicide attempts. All of these things we see dramatically increased in trans youth. But young people that I've seen who socially transition in childhood and have support of their families, they have a very different experience. This is the implant.
Now there is new medical treatment for young people like Zoe.
So this is enough to last a year or longer.
Wow. Doctors have recently started administering drugs that block puberty.
And then it just secretes the medicine every day into the person's body.
And keep them from developing unwanted adult characteristics, like facial hair for transgender girls or breasts in transgender boys.
And then I decided that I was trans earlier.
The effects of those drugs can be reversed, but the effects of hormones, which transgender youths can take later to look more male or female, are often not reversible. Dr. Olson says by then her patients, like Venice, are not going back. In terms of making these changes so that you can go through life as a boy, what's the upside of that for you?
The upside is that, I'll actually get to have part of the body I do want.
At 13, Venice has started taking the hormone testosterone, as well as puberty blockers. He says he has always felt like a boy, though he was born biologically a girl. But he says being trans has not been easy.
It's been a difficult process because, no one really would want to be trans. No one would actually really enjoy it.
And then there is the prospect of sex change surgery further down the road. Is that something that is a little bit scary to you?
Yeah, I'm really afraid for bottom surgery, like how much pain it will cause.
There are practical problems as well. California, where Venice lives, was the first state to pass a law specifically allowing transgender school children to use bathrooms, locker rooms, and even play on sports teams of the gender that they choose.
Some school districts in California say.
But opponents like Brad Dacus of the Pacific Justice Institute, a conservative legal group, claim the law could put an unfair burden on other children.
You're saying under this law that a 13-year-old or 14-year-old girl in a locker room has to change and dress and be naked in front of, say, a 16-year-old boy, simply because a 16-year-old boy, who's a biological boy, but inside has a mental condition called gender identity dysphoria and thinks that he's a girl. This is ludicrous and really unreasonable.
Dacus argues that while transgender kids should be treated with compassion, they should use separate facilities, say in faculty or nurses' offices. Venice's response?
You can use a separate bathroom too.
But Venice has had other issues to worry about. His parents are separated, and while his mother and brother have always been supportive, his father was not. Finally, Venice's mom, Trish, sent his father a letter.
It said pretty much, you're on board with this, or you can't be in our lives because, a child that's not supported doesn't flourish. And Dad looked at that and decided, well, I can either have a son or I can have nothing.
Nobody knows what we're going through.
Today, Venice's father, Mike, has joined Venice's mother in a support group for parents of transgender kids.
I was in a lot of fear and anxiety, and especially when my kid came out. And
he acknowledges that he hired a series of therapists in an effort to convince Venice to live as a girl, all to no avail.
So I was totally in the wrong area, spending lots of money trying to fix a kid that, wasn't really broken.
And parents are beginning to heed the wishes of their children at ever younger ages. The 6-year-old, happily jumping with her younger brother, is Maddie, originally named Matthias. Your mom told me that when you were born, everybody thought you were a boy, except you, right? What did you think?
A girl. I was a girl.
You knew?
Yeah.
How'd you know?
I just figured that out.
Maddie's parents, Christy and Enrique, say it started when she was younger than 2, going clothes shopping, for example.
Christy and I would go to the boys section, and Maddie would start directly going to the girls section and wanting to pick clothes from there.
Maddie's parents say she was miserable when treated as a boy, and by the time she entered kindergarten in San Diego last year, they felt they had to enroll her as a girl. You know that some people are going to see this story on television and say, oh my gosh, they should have waited. They should have insisted on waiting longer. Why didn't you wait longer?
She was in pain. I don't see that there was really another option. She was uncomfortable. She was unhappy. You can't see your child suffer like that. Nothing's been done that can't be undone. So people that would say maybe it's too early, we should have waited, what did we have to lose at this point? She's happier.
Like all the parents we spoke to for this story, Christy and Enrique told us they decided to go public because they want to help other families facing the same issues.
I also want for Maddie to know that it's nothing that can't be talked about, but I also want her to know that she shouldn't be ashamed or afraid to be who she is.
While doctors say some children who identify themselves as the opposite of their physical gender do change their minds as they get older, there is little data on how often that occurs. So far, Maddie shows no sign of reconsidering. Have you ever thought maybe sometime, gee, it might be fun to go back and dress like a boy and be more like a boy?
I don't want to.
You don't want to do that. You know that, what? How do you feel?
Like a girl.
Is there anything you'd like to say for maybe other children who people say, oh, you're a boy, but they know that they're a girl? Is there anything you'd like to tell them?
Let them choose.
Let them choose.